This is Rick Harsch in Book Covers Part 2. I think I'm not going to. My glasses keep falling down on my nose. Uh, or if I put my head like this, then okay. We'll just start with book covers. You can skip this ad in 3 days, but you probably already know that. I hope I don't miss any books, but I really don't know where I left off and what I covered and what I didn't. But I think, whoops, I rammed some books into some coffee cups. The last one we did was Unidentified Man that left a photo, but then we skipped way up to circumnavigation through maritime history. So I guess that would be the last one we did. And so, going in order, the next one would be, okay, Chandler Broussard's Raging Joys, Sublime Violations. This is a wacky book about, it's an anti-Vietnam novel, and I think the best, because in its absurdity and its surrealism and its sort of at times less than subtle Freudianism, it gets at the nature of the war and the nurture of the war and the what would you call it? You know, when you just want to make sure the war keeps going, that the momentum of the war. But the main thing is that he would he does a very good job of naming names. There are a lot of names of real war criminals who existed during that time. And if you're younger than I am, by maybe even 5 or 10 years, if you haven't studied the war, you would miss a lot of these names. But not John F. Kennedy, who in the book is a pre-epic feller. And there's a wonderful scene with a poolside orgy in which, with all the grotesquerie of an orgy with famous people, in which Jackie gets rammed doggy style by a dog, and John, while he's giving out orders and discussing matters with either Dean Rusk or maybe somebody else, maybe it was Henry Cabot Lodge, he's getting a blowjob, and so you have a cartoonish cover that reflects that sort of thing. You see the little skull fucking going on with. That's Lyndon Baines Johnson, the pre-epic Johnny Nixon with his scrotal and penile gun, and on the back, of course, you have Henry Kissinger eating the head of a baby. This was done by Zachary Tanner, and I sort of told him what I would like to see on the cover. I don't remember to what degree I was precise. But I couldn't be happier. Of course, he look at the jet, and it turned off a number of people who took it perhaps the wrong way. I don't know how that would be, but it's I guess it's a book for anybody who has a collection of Vietnam books, because this one, the great part about that scene I was mentioning, the orgy scene, is what he's talking about with Henry Cabot Lodge is something that a lot of people forget when they praise John F. Kennedy, the celebrity figure, and sort of like Obama. He's a celebrity figure, so you can overlook all the citizens that he killed. And, Obama called for drone strikes in Yemen, a country we're not at war with, in Palestine. He was a war criminal by definition. and he actually killed American citizens in Yemen. One, a 16-year-old son of someone who he had already had killed by drone. Anyway, the same kind of thing is going on here, and he points out that a little over a month before he was killed, he ordered a coup in Vietnam. The Allies, enemies of the people all, uh, and had the No brothers overthrown and assassinated. And so, when he was assassinated, there was a lot more attention around the world, but assassinating a leader is assassinating a leader. So while that's going on, he's discussing the problem with these brothers and telling, I think it was Henry Cabot Lodge, telling him, kill him, get rid of him, So it captures the flavor of the book quite well. A triumph of a cover is the next Broussard, also by Zach Tanner. One thing I love about it, you have this work of genius collage. Everything on here means something and has something to do with the book, and sometimes profoundly so. And so you got a lot going on, but then you got the white spine, which I think really makes it. Our future Broussard books will follow this pattern. And we were also lucky from Stephen Moore. We were given this photo of a Broussard passport that was canceled. And, so that cover is just a guy who has an eye and a brain that can bring things together, and it's a magnificent cover. There are details like repressed desires, the stuff of dreams, and underneath you have a bunch of crucified. I can't remember where they were from, but a crucifixion perpetrated by the white folk, and the book is a masterpiece of the '60s, and you get the '60s on the cover, in some obvious ways and some less obvious ways. The next and final Broussard for now is a cover that Dalkey Archive did. But basically this book was made by Stephen Moore and Chandler Broussard working together. You have in the French flaps, you have Stephen Moore talking about the book, and on the back you have a tremendous blurb by Chandler Broussard. But the cover photo, Broussard chose it. So we decided that, we would just reproduce what he did. But, and I love the black, and this is probably the best or second best use of our logo. But on top of that, inside the book, we have the front matter that was already there, title page, books by Broussard, the dedication to Stephen Moore, and Zachary Tanner's introduction. This book kills fascists. It's a marvelous introduction. But then there were two blank pages at the end. You have the end of the introduction, and then you have the beginning of the book. So what do you do with these pages? Well, my printer came up with this idea to reproduce this in a different shade, and it was a brilliant idea. So it all came together. And this book is a work of cover art, truly a great one. So we have the three Broussards. Two of them you look at and immediately say, "Wow," and one you look at and you say, "Ugh." But I say yes. Henry Kissinger eating the head of a baby captures the real Henry Kissinger, I think. We also have, before I get to the final pocketbooks of the series, We have Olaf, The Assassination of Olaf Palme, an anthological novel by me and as many people as I could squeeze in or wanted to squeeze in. It's in 2 volumes. I'll show you the first volume. Again, this is Jason Snyder's work, and I didn't notice at first. Some of it was my idea, some was his, but this is someone in the book who was an anarchist who was murdered by the police, and his name was Giuseppe Pinelli, and he was the inspiration for Dario Fo's accidental death of an anarchist because he, according to the police, fell out the window. That make you think of anything? Last night, another black man was shot, and the reason was that the cop pulled her gun instead of her taser, and so a 20-year-old unarmed black man stopped for, this is what I've heard today, because of the air fresheners hanging from his rear view mirror. Now, this is one thing that this cannot make the news 90-some% of the time, but the reasons that blacks are pulled over, and we've seen this in a lot of recent cases when there was a death that followed, the reason that they were pulled over was, just the kind of thing that you and I have never been pulled over for, you white people. You black people know exactly what I'm talking about, because sometimes you just get a look that that I would never get. And so I have gotten that look once when I was near the border on foot after my car was taken from me because I had some of my papers were out of order, and it was legitimate that what the cops did, but it was far from here, and I was with a guy whose girlfriend had to come and pick us up, and about an hour and a half away. But we had to. We were on foot, and to kill some time, there was a new border. We walked back to the old border, and some border cops drove by and were giving us that, people on foot look. And we were within sight of the other border, and so the guy looked at me, and I looked like that back at him, and then they pulled around, stopped, and asked for ID and all that shit. Well, that's the kind of thing that black people of any temperament go through, all the time in the United States. Well, anarchists in Italy didn't fare much better. What's brilliant about this cover, I liked the idea. I wanted all the names of the contributors to be flowing down towards Giuseppe Pinelli. But so how do you design that? I wouldn't have known how. But Jason Snyder did. And you can actually see behind there, that's a copy of this in red and black. It's brilliant. And then on the back, and in the back of this flap, there's my daughter, Biderby. Hi, Biderby. What cover do you like the most of all these? Just of these 5 covers. She chooses the Vardaman Flip. Great. Is there anything else you want? Would you like to speak to the crowd?
No.
No? You don't like the crowd?
I do, but
We don't even know who the crowd is. Bobby's gone shy. But she did pick the book, which I appreciate. Thank you. Do you need anything, or are you just saying hi because you returned home from school?
yeah.
What'd you get on your test? A 1?
Yeah.
Really? Great. You got a 1?
Yeah, but
Great.
That's a bad grade.
Well, it's a bad grade, but it's about time. This is her first one of the year, right?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. She's been having a great year, and one bad test. It's time. It's time. Bravo. 1 to 5 is the grading system. 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and she got a 1. And I don't know what the test was even on. They arrange things in a weird way here that I don't understand. Anyway, the Swiss Guard that Jason also came up with that idea because I didn't want anything on the back, but again, you have to have this. That's from the press I was supposed to be an imprint of. That the guy died. I think I mentioned that before. So then, but this was another of my ideas. Flaps are part of the cover. This is the beginning of my introduction to the book, and then it just kind of fades away. The next page, you have more of the Swedish Guard, and then author photo. Those are Rick Harsch masks by the Buffalo Boys, who are writing America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots. They had a marvelous video out in which they used Rick Harsch masks, and so I thought, well, okay, it fits with one of the themes and aims of the book. So this is, one of the more complicated covers in its way. But then there's volume 2. We did it in green, and this is before I wanted to say that the best use of the logo was on the black and white, but Jason greenified this, and my friend Larry, who translated Larry Riley translated the Flamethrowers by Roberto Arlt, something we can get into at another time. I think we're going to publish that just to make sure that it remains alive and in print, because it went from 1931 when it was written to 2018 when it was finally translated definitively and published. Not definitively in the sense that it can't be done again. I mean, I'm sure that translators will look over his work and say, but Arlt would have loved his translation, and I think that's what makes it so great. Same thing, in a different color. The back, I promised no blurbs, but then I really wanted Larry's blurb. And you have, again, my introduction, only instead of starting what you do, instead of we start with it obscured, and then you get the very end of my introduction, and then you turn the page, and you got the same Swedish Guard, but another Buffalo Boys production. The multiplication of authors is and of me as author is quite appropriate, because one of the themes is what is, it's a question, and the theme is the answer. What is an autobiographical novel? And that's an autobiographical novel that has very little about my life in it. My daughter Baidavi just chose one of my favorite covers of Vardaman Flip. Again, we have Edward Belsky and Edward Belsky. There are 2 novels here. This is the latest from Vardaman, and probably my favorite. April is the Cruelest Month. It's a surreal masterpiece, and of the unexpected. Let me just read you the first line. You open a book and you say, Allbelly came into Uncle Milty's around 7 p.m. and said, hey, you guys, yesterday Eddie Papoul strangled his crooked-headed mama and then shot himself in the head in a car at the bottom of Van Vechten Park. Why Van Vechten Park, said Dietrich. And it goes on, and it's it could be a play, but it is just a stunning and surprising work. This Suddenly This Summer was written 10 or 11 years ago by David Vardaman, and somebody finally who read it said, Jim Thompson, and I think that how do I describe this book? I don't know. It's Midwestern noir with an oddity to it that you know is singular. Although a lot of the greatest writers, I've been reading Richard Kalich, Colin O'Sullivan, two of the Ireland's Betimes Books authors, and they are singularly strange in their own ways. Um, and this is singularly strange, and everything by Jim Thompson is singularly strange. But this comes, I think Jim Thompson comes the closest when you describe this. But I would call it proto-feminist, uh, Jim Thompson-esque Midwestern noir. Takes place in the 1960s. First-person librarian. Extraordinary book, and for the covers, um, we were lucky. This is I captured this in a photo without any artistic intent, and got the shadow that makes it what it is. You probably can't tell, but there's another face right there, face with more color. Uh, and here, if you look at this enough, you find several women um, that could be Eddie Papoul's crooked-headed mama. And so this is one of my all time favorites. Zachary Tanner put it together, and you'll see in a minute that this is the second book with a kind of wood um, spine. That is very controversial. The other one is Bori Proper's Cynicism Management. Now we have a problem here. I'm learning about the processes. This should be a little bit lighter. You can see everything on there, but this is the right coloring for the back. You can't tell that it's a wood. The reason it's wood is because this cover piece of 3D art is actually in a wooden frame, and so that wood represents that frame. But in the process of going from file to file and into print, it became a little too dark, so that and it doesn't matter for a color like that, and a fantastic color, but you don't, with the darker colors, you don't get enough. And see, that's a tiger, and I don't know if you could tell that right away. That and not being able to see the title well enough. I think once we sell enough that we need to replenish, our printer will brighten it up slightly. Then I think the last book I have to talk about in terms of the cover is for Robin. Thank you, Robin, for making me talk about the book covers of my press. And for me, the covers are extremely important. First thing is the author has to really like the covers. We've had the authors do their own covers, and as an author who has been at times consulted about my covers and at times not, believe me, it's best to be consulted, so that at least you can say, no, not that. Once in a while you go, great idea. I love what you did there, And my first two books were that way, but my third one was a flop, in my opinion. I had my own idea, but they had kind of stopped asking me. But if they could have at least showed it to me, I had an idea. Anyway, it's good for authors to, any book that you put out might be your last, and you want to be able to, really love looking at it all the time. And which one do I love looking at the most? I think the Palme books. But the best cover ever by anyone who did any of my books was Jason Snyder again. Voices After Evelyn. This is not a Corona Samizdat book, This was done by Maintenance Ends, but it was my idea, and he took it to a level that was stunning to me. This is an extraordinary cover, maybe the best I've ever seen. Um, their logo, I don't know if it's still this, but you have the woodpecker on the propane tank. I love that. But just marvel. Done marveling? All right. Next book is Tenderlopolis, which is an epistolary novel of extraordinary literary and erotic content. Um, it's very perverse in more ways than one, but it's a brilliant piece of writing by Vesna Radic. That's a pseudonym. Um, and Zach Tanner again did the cover, and he was going after a sort of Victorian era private erotica cover. And now again, a lot of people are turned off by the cover. Um, and and there, there's look at her. Um, well, and inside there are several drawings that all mean something. Like, for instance, this is called the Repentant Glory Hole. Um, but the masterpiece of this book is the frontispiece. And, you have the obvious Greek style bordering, and you have the windows, so to speak. And I just think that is fantastic. And I think what some people don't get, it's dedicated to de Sade's mother, for Marie Eleonore de Mailly de Clermont. And let's see, what's the first photo you come to? Peeping Marge. That's, there is a little bit of peeping going on in the book, but the most important peeping is the accidental hearing of something that two lovers don't think is being heard. But it's an extraordinary piece of writing, and Zach captured, I think, the spirit of the book as combined with Victorian private publishing. So it is called Tenderlopolis. It's a very thin, quick book, and there you see the logo saying, "Please, please, I've been made by Jeff Walton. I want to be in a book." But there you go. There you get the. I wonder if you can make out the logo, because that's very important too on a book. And the logo is an empty suit or not. It's hard to tell, but a black hand coming and pulling a book out of the pocket. So I hope I haven't skipped any. If I have, just write to General Mills, Omaha, Michigan, and we'll get you some free millage. And my God, this is Rick Harsch, and I'm making a promise. Thank you. Thanks to Robin for giving me the idea, asking me to do this, so that when people say, "That's boring, what are you talking about?" I can say, "Well, someone asked." Thanks, Robin.